Hi, this is Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, and I'm so pleased and honored today to have a very special guest in my office in D.C. This is the Chaldean Archbishop of Erbil, Archbishop Warda. Archbishop, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your visit. This is a very sacrificial time for you to be coming to visit me. But let me explain a little bit of the context here. The Archbishop has responsibility for a large area of Iraq and is the shepherd of tens of thousands of Christians, if you will, who are a part of the ancient Chaldean rite, a part of the Catholic Church. And they have a separate special liturgy that dates way back. In fact, they speak the language of Jesus, Aramaic, in their liturgy. But the reason that we're talking is not just because we want to be in solidarity with you because of the persecution that has happened to religious minorities in Iraq at the hands of ISIS. When they rose up in 2014, they specifically targeted the Yazidi community, the Christian community, and certain Islamic minority communities for complete extermination, genocide. So we worked very hard in Congress to elevate international consciousness about this, got the genocide declared. So I was pleased with that, but that's not enough. And then we quickly shifted to trying to provide some direct aid to your people and others who've been so devastated by this. I remember very vividly, I think you told me the story about how all of a sudden in Erbil, where you live, people just began showing up in the middle of the night, spending nights in the park. They were just fleeing the violence that ISIS had perpetrated upon the Christian and Yazidi communities and to the safe place of Erbil. So if you could give us an update, Archbishop, Your Excellency, on the current situation of the Christians and Yazidis and others, that would be very helpful.
Thank you, Excellency, and I would like also to thank you and thank all the American people and the American government for their support, for their solidarity. In fact, this solidarity have made all the change, and thank God for all of this solidarity, in which we still have a good number of the community back home to Nineveh Plain, rebuilding their homes, their lives again, in the midst of all of this disputes that's happening in that country. A big word of thanks to the government, to you, to all the Congress people who worked hard for making this happen, to aid to the church in need, Knights of Columbus, Catholic churches, and all the churches here in America. Today, as you know, Iraq is in a very difficult situation where protests since October 2019 are demanding, like all the rest of Iraq, for change and fighting corruption, reforms. And as a church and Christians and all over the people have joined this and joined all of the people of Iraq of the needs of change, because Iraqis all Iraqis deserve better life, deserve proper jobs, deserve dignified way of living. And we have all of this at hand. But unfortunately, due to all of this corruptions and proxy wars happening there, we are not getting it. So yes, it's a very difficult situation. It needs your continuous support, and your voice and the voice of the people like you is making a difference.
Well, that's generous of you to say, and it's also very generous of you to show gratitude to the American people, because this is a hard question for us. Right outside my door here, as you've seen, there's a number of pictures of young people who died in the Iraq War, American troops. And it's very painful for America to think of Iraq, because we've given so much, both in lives and money spent, and then to watch the situation now continue to be unstable. This is why I make the point that there are a few things left that we have to do. We've given so much, we've spent so much, we've lost so much. It's hard to understand why there must be more done. But I think there is still the possibility of a healthy Iraq, a healthy nationalism Iraq, a stable Iraq that is a friend of the United States, a friend of the international community. And part of that, an important component of that, and that's what I want to get to in our conversation, is ensuring that the ancient faith traditions, who once made up a vibrant tapestry of pluralism in Iraq, actually have a chance. The Christian community, in fact, the ambassador from Iraq to America is a friend of mine. He gave me a book called Al-Baghdadi about a school started by priest from Boston in Baghdad. But in Baghdad in 1932, there were 250,000 Muslims, 75,000 Jewish people, and 20,000 Christians. So you can see right there that Iraq has this long history of pluralism, a tradition of various ancient faiths living side by side, not always perfectly, but nonetheless maintaining a presence. Can you foresee the possibility of that happening again? This is one of the reasons that, again, the vice president a little while back, at his behest, I went to northern Iraq to see how we could ensure that your contribution to the possibility of Iraq remains possible and doable, and that you have a right, as much as anyone else, to retain and maintain and thrive in your ancient homeland.
Yes, of course. We are always proud of our what we call dialogue of life with Islam for 1,400 years. We coexist together, we work together, and we could make it happen. Yes, there are numbers of issues which have affected the life and the dialogue, but still there is quite a possibility. And one of the issues that you could tell about the protest and about what's happening in the media, it's all about Iraq. It's all about Iraq. Christians, Yazidis, Muslims, Shia, Sunni, Kurds, everyone is talking that Iraqi people deserve a better life.
Yeah.
In that sense. And as a church leader, I would like also to see that the church is taking a leading position in this, and being able to speak about that, because I know that my brothers and sisters, Muslims from all denominations in Iraq, trust our schools, trust our university, trust our healthcare. So we have to build on this. There is a possibility. Yes, in 2003 there was a big change. I would always say the Americans are responsible for that change, but we should continue. We should continue building on that and help and empower the people to make the needed change. Now we have this freedom of speech, and people could express their thoughts and minds. From time to time there are some difficulties, but still we could say this is what's needed. So I would still count on your help on helping the Iraqis make the right decision for Iraq. And as you put it rightly, a country, a sovereign country, which has a respected relationship with all of those. I mean, that's the sovereignty that we are looking for. Iraq has the decision to relate to other countries for the interest of the Iraqis, and we could make it together, all Iraqis.
And I think that has to be the ultimate objective here, and that actually helps the United States speed up our withdrawal from Iraq. And in that regard, one thing that I propose, which is now law in the budget bill that we got through, is integrating the local indigenous communities, religious minorities, into the central government's security forces so that ISIS can never happen again. For instance, in Sinjar, where the Yazidis primarily are, and Nineveh, where a lot of the Christians are, they were so vulnerable because the security was so weak that ISIS came and swept the area and could commit genocide. Well, if you have local people who are part of the trained professional force that the international community could help train, this goes a long way towards stabilizing and then helps us, again, further wind down our intimate involvement in Iraq, leaving behind the conditions in which you can flourish. And that's the idea. It's now in law. I'm proud of that. It's in our budget bill. We have a separate resolution on this. But we'll keep working toward this because I think this is a big part of the answer. And it's a very light footprint.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea to have an army which has the possibility for all the Iraqis to join, and especially when it comes to areas like Nineveh Plains, Sinjar, when you have indigenous people, you have the people of these villages, part of the what we call police, part of the Iraqi army, defending their lands. This would show that the strength. And as you said, yes, Iraqis want all of these foreign forces to leave the country. We are grateful for their help because they were there to defend the country against ISIS, and they would finish this mission but at the same time leaving the country safer.
Yeah.
And this law would really encourage the Iraqi army to be open for all, and at the same time strengthen Iraqis. And thank God we have a good number of the Iraqi or with Christians also willing to join the police and the army to defend their villages and their cities.
Well, when it was very clear to me after I had gone to Iraq, and you kindly hosted us, the Yazidi community hosted us, the Sabak Shia community hosted us as well. It's very clear to me that yes, our economic aid is important and it's starting to help you, but for it to be sustainable, there needs to be a new security footprint that can be achieved by, again, training the local people to be a part of the central government's forces with some authority to protect themselves. So we'll keep working in that direction. I think it's very important. And again, that's a part of, again, moving toward the day when Iraq can fully stand on its own and be a friend and ally of the responsible communities of the world. I think this is what we have to strive for. Well, again, Your Excellency, I really am grateful for not just your sacrifice in coming here, but your leadership back home. It is a hard situation. There are many of your people who you shepherd that suffer greatly. I'm very proud of the Archbishop. He actually just presented a new idea to me to try to actually help some of the victims of the violence that the ISIS, the twisted ideology, imposed upon the Yazidi community by helping some of the women who were enslaved recover from that. The Archbishop has started a university in Erbil, which is I'm happy to see. So there's progress being made here. So, Your Excellency, thank you for, again, your sacrifice. The contribution that you've made, again, to the prospects for civilization there are profound. 1,400 years, as you imagine, your people have been there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep the prayers. Thank you.